Well, hello. I am so excited to welcome you to another episode of Wake Up to Your Life Magic. I am your host, Dr. Helmut Lucero Love, and we are here to elevate conversations and leadership through conversations that we're not always having. I'll remind you, you can check out the book and learn more at wakeuptoyourlifemagic.com. And today I am very excited. Oh, look, there's a copy of my book. Today I'm very excited because I am joined by Christopher McCormick, and he and I are going to get to have a little chat. Welcome, Christopher.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Where are you joining me from?
I am joining you from San Francisco in my home.
Yeah, I had to ask because we can see that beautiful background behind you. It's just gorgeous.
For those of you who people know San Francisco, there's a Salesforce Tower in the back there.
There you go.
It's a little
I do know it.
cloudy today, but yeah.
Beautiful. Well, so tell us what you do at consultingvisionary.org and how you serve those people.
Sure. I am the founder and CEO of Visionary Consulting. The web page is a little bit different just because that was already taken. Gotta love starting a new business and figuring all that fun stuff out along the way. What I do is I support Fortune 100 companies and top nonprofits. I help them with their people and lead really their people and culture strategy to help them understand how that's going to support the business for the future. And I get to work with really great people all the time and really have a tremendous impact. So it's great.
That's beautiful. And I mean, you get to have impact with people who are having impact beyond even you, right? Because there's all those humans that are impacting the other humans.
Yep.
Tell me about a story that our audience can connect to about something that maybe changed or shifted your life and the impact it had on you as a person.
Change or shift or impacted my life and impact. Well, I grew up in Indiana, in the Midwest. For those of you who don't know it, there's more than corn in Indiana. That's a phrase that they use.
Is there?
There's like a, I don't remember, there's like a fair or some kind of like amusement park thing, and their slogan in the 80s and 90s was "There's more than corn in Indiana." They're like, really? Tell me more, because if you're driving through it, it doesn't really look like it. But yeah, so I grew up in Indiana. I grew up in a very traditional household, mother, father, sister, 2 siblings, right? So pretty normal, but also not from any sort of wealth or prestige. Very paycheck to paycheck parents who also sent us to church or went to church with them and went to Southern Baptist Church and grew up. And we're talking, dating myself here, but I remember it was December, it was cold. I was on a pew in the middle of Indiana listening to this sermon. It was like 1983 or 4. And I remember knowing that I was going to probably get sick and die. I was going to get AIDS and I was going to die, and I was going to go to hell. It's like the holy trifecta of shame. So the holy trinity of shame.
Totally relate.
Yeah, and so I realized that there was something wrong with me, and that was not supposed to happen, and not natural, or whatever if you will. And I remember going home to pray that night, and I prayed every night before I went to bed. And I had my pretty traditional prayer of like, "Dear Heavenly Father, please forgive me of all my sins. Please, thank you for everything you've given us. Be grateful." All this sort of standard root prayers that you learn. And that night, my prayer changed a little bit. I kneeled in front of my bed and I started to pray. And that night, I asked God I asked Him to fix me. Mm-hmm. I said, "Dear God, fix me. Please fix me. I don't want to be this horrible person. I don't want to be this awful, atrocious, whatever on society."
Abomination.
Abomination. That's a good word. Yeah. So I just remember I said that prayer for about a year. And after a year of saying that prayer, I stopped praying because I made up that God doesn't listen and He doesn't answer prayers. So fast forward a few years later, and I still went to church and I still did all the things because you can't survive Indiana in the 80s and 90s and not play along or, go with the flow, and survive. And just, unfortunately, there are a lot of people in the world who don't survive that. They actually take their own life, or they go through very hard circumstances where it's too much to bear. So totally get that. But fast forward a few years later, I'm working on some self-reflection work, some inner work, some coaching and developing and all of those things. And one of the things that I reflected on was that I hadn't prayed in forever. I hadn't prayed in a long time. And so I was like, well, why not? Well, what's the worst thing that could happen if I said a prayer tonight? And,
Yeah.
it happens. That's what I've been having that experience be for as long as I can remember back. And I just remember I went to go pray that night, and I started with that rote prayer. And I was like, Dear Heavenly Father, please. And before I could say, please forgive me of my sins, I stopped. Like, I was like, Dear Heavenly Father, please. And I caught myself. And I was like, here we go again. Here you go, asking for someone outside of you to be at the source of your experience or of your life. And so I started over, and I literally started, and I said, Dear Heavenly Father, I forgive me of all my sins and past transgressions. And I ask that you do the same. And it was in that moment, it became a conversation with God versus something outside of me. And it was almost like a self-realization that there is part of the Lord, God, Allah, whatever your belief system is, there's part of that spiritual, that part of that connectedness to yourself and to others and to nature that exists within each of us. And starting to honor that, and really be at the best way I could say it, be at the source of what that means for me, which is being responsible for how I show up in the world, and being responsible is being willing to be cause in the matter of my experience and cause in the matter of the experience of others around me. So
I don't want to this beautiful story, beautiful reality of what you experienced. I thought, did you pray to Father or Mother when you made that prayer, when you did it correct? I couldn't remember. I thought maybe we had talked about it before.
Heavenly Father. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
As I have enjoyed praying to Heavenly Mother to help me break down other things I've had in my life around that, I just want to share, first of all, that I'm really sorry that you had to suffer that too. So many of our kind have. And, I would encourage you, support you, hopefully, in that, you know what, I don't think that our suffering was unknown. It's very deep. It's a very deep suffering because it alienates us from the concept of God, family, love, wealth. Like, it's basically separating you from source. But I think that we carry the sexual shame of the earth. Like, we really do. And I do think that, thankfully, we live in a time when we've been set free, and that we're in this time when we can do this healing work.
Yeah.
I've just come to the place where I realize that special pain, that special wounding is the source of our superpowers. It's the source of our spiritual leadership, and it's the source of a lot of leadership. I see so many gay men excelling and doing greatly. And you know what? We went a long way. We're both celebrating. For those who are listening, we both live in the sky, so to speak, in high rises. And we were just sharing that it's like living in a Jefferson's moment is what I call it, which is dating me as well, to my birth in the 70s. But
no, this is way before my time. Please share.
Yeah. Oh, stop.
I'm too young to remember. I'm kidding.
No, I'm thankfully old enough to remember. And I'll just say that, you know what, it is a beautiful thing that we're getting to live this, as many others in other tribes are getting to live their free and real selves. So thankful to live in this generation, and not one where we would have been exterminated or removed or whatever other horrible thing So that is a blessing. Now let's talk about the vision you're creating as an HR leader,
Yeah.
right? With that heroicism within you. What is it you're creating out in the world? What is the vision you have or you want to help people get to in their businesses?
Yeah. Well, I think that you can look at any headline and news source and see that things aren't working. I don't know if you've
You're
noticed.
not?
Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Put your head back down in the sand. Everything will be great.
That part.
Yeah. There is a whole sense of the profit over people. And there are organizations that run themselves that way that are very effective at making a lot of money and making a lot of few people wealthy, which is very, very much a pain point that I think we're in. And I think we're in a time where people are starting to wake up to your life magic, waking up to the fact that we've been sold a bill of goods and it's not working. So I see part of my role is to facilitate and have empathy for where people are, especially leadership teams who are stuck in conversations that they inherited, frankly, that they've come up with, that they're supposed to be this or that, or if you're a strong leader, you make decisive choices. This is a business call. It's not personal. It's business. I'm like, bullshit. It's not personal. It's personal to the person who you just like doesn't have a job now and doesn't know how you're going to pay their bills or pay for food on the table, send their kid to college. Like that's pretty personal. And you may be able to, remove yourself from it and say, you do have to make hard calls. You do have to prioritize. Those are hard decisions. How you lead through it says all about who you are versus it's just, you're going to just give it that idiom of it's business, not personal. Like sign it off to like the easiest headline that you can sell to people. That's just not, it doesn't cut it anymore. And so frankly, I think my role is to help enable leaders to be better at doing those types of things when they're making hard choices. And sometimes they have to make hard choices. I get that. And they can be leading through that type of issue with empathy, with love, with respect, with honor and dignity at the core of it. And it still is going to suck for that person who's being impacted. And they're also going to still feel like they can thrive and they can flourish in the world, even if they don't have that net to fall back on. They've been respected, they've been seen, they've been heard and validated. And it is not necessarily about that person. It is personal. It's not about you, the person, but it is personal to you. And you're going to be dealing with something. So as executives, I tell them all the time, don't say that. If you say that, you've lost absolutely all credibility you've ever earned or all the trust you've ever earned just flew out the door. So really, I see my role as to make leaders better, to have that bigger impact in a more dignified way, and to really lead with purpose, lead with grace, and lead with ease in a way that gives them facility to hold all of the spaces that they have to hold and still make decisions where they have to make them that are going to ultimately have consequences.
Yeah. You touched on so many things that I want to touch on one point about waking up. The reality is, and I think this is happening, it's happening for you, it's happening for me, it's happening for many of us corporate leaders. We are waking up to see that in reality, we've created a system. We have a system problem, right? Our system is that if you own a 401k, you're part of the problem. Well, that's a lot of us, right? We're all blind shareholders, blind plantation owners, so to speak, who don't have to see the bloody mess of what happens on the floor of the corporation. And to your point, we do use these trite words like it's just business. And that, as someone, I worked at GE for 10 years, much earlier in my career. We went out and we did that in other countries, right? And we removed swaths of employment here and we called it progress, but now it's getting deeper and deeper into the bone. And we're starting to realize, what is the purpose of business? what are we creating? What kind of world are we creating? And it is time to wake up and realize we have a systemic problem. So now the question becomes, how do we solve this system, right? How do we shift it?
Yeah.
Because it's great for some of us to have wealth, but unless it's shared, it's not okay. And just by way of point, that's why I've dabbled into politics. That's why I teach corporate leadership, and that's why I wrote a book that includes wealth sharing.
Yeah.
Because I think the reality is this is the issue of our times.
It is. And wealth we're wealthy in we're abundant in the world. There's more resources than we could ever use up. Are we doing it in the best way to serve everybody on the planet? No. Are we doing it in a way that is very select to a few, and do those few want to keep control and have the power over that? Yes. And that's the rub, and that's where we're at. And I think we will see a seismic shift in how that starts to evolve and shape in new politics, new system processes, new policies, new ways in which the world starts to work, and demand, frankly, that we do better. Because the planet's not going to survive the way we've treated. If we keep doing that, it will just happen. There's one. It all ends the same way. We all die. People throw dirt on us and we eat. It all ends the same way. You can't take it with you. You can't literally. We don't get out of this alive, and we actually get to have an impact on how the experience of future generations happens if we do better. If we train, if we break systems and rebuild them, or we enhance or improve what's there structurally, and we remove racism from the criminal justice system, or from the educational system, or from the healthcare system, you name a system, there's systemic racism, systemic bias, systemic everything to keep the people in power in power.
Yeah, there are, and I'll also say this though. I think even more than the systemic, I think there's systemic classism is the thing I keep coming back to. There is not a actual desire for the systems to work, right? And I think even if they worked and they had more, if we had our progress is only going to, we're only going to progress if we all progress, and it's only going to work if all of our systems actually work, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's corrections, whether it's small business, entrepreneurship programs, all of our services. What I love about this conversation is that I actually feel like I would really trust you if you were another leader helping me, because there's a certain amount of clarity that you have. And I think that is part of our gay superpower.
Yeah. And the clarity, but also our ability, the BS meter is really high. We're not going to tolerate a lot of, stuff that just doesn't fit the sniff test of is this real? We'll tell the truth. We're truth tellers in the room where other people don't feel safe to tell the truth. And I think that's
funny? Isn't it funny? Because we didn't tell the truth for so long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really is. Just to kind of put a pin in your example too, though, I worked at a nonprofit healthcare system, big healthcare system in California. Loved it. Wonderful people, fantastic. One of the key executives at the time, just saw her post something. I was talking with her the other day. I mean, this is a woman who has massive influence, massive contacts, networks, has money, can do this. She's taking care of her elderly mother, and they're sitting in the emergency room, and she's like, this system is broken. I'm like, but you worked on it for how many years, and in it for so many years? If you're saying that, and you have all of the resources available to you to take care of this person that you care so much about and love tremendously, and want to see treated with respect and dignity in a system that is broken, even for someone who has the privilege that you have, you're still struggling with having the system work, period.
Yeah. So we need solutioneers, is what I always say. We need problem solvers. We need more people with business savvy and big hearts to get involved in leadership. So let's talk a little bit about one of the reasons I love this topic um, is that I like concepts of morality, spirituality, connectedness, love. These are things that we often, we can be out at work. You can be like, yeah, I'm a, demisexual gay man in a throuple, like whatever. Like we work to like, okay. But a lot of times people are still dimming their lights around what they really believe as to why we're here, as
Mm.
to a greater purpose. And when I think about leading, because I do a lot of my 9-figure leadership and strategy work around leading people. And the truth is that we want to have purpose. As humans, it's such an intrinsic part of our desire to have meaning. And when we can speak and lead to, I call them universal spiritual principles, right? That
Mm.
are embedded in love and the contribution we're creating, people will do more. People will act, and if you're demonstrating that back to them and you're demonstrating it to clients and to everyone else, people want to work in those spaces.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like we're doing in terms of people getting to bring their authentic spiritual, moral selves to work? And what are your thoughts about ways it could be better, things we need to avoid, that kind of thing?
Mm. I'm here for it. Just in general, I'm here for it. I also understand that companies, again, all they see are lawyers and big pocketbooks, and like, how do we keep things very, sterile and clean? Which makes sense for depending on what business you're in. If you're in the medical business, you need things sterile and clean. But they're maybe not the conversation that you're having with colleagues about how you innovate or think about a new product or service that might impact a community that you're not being able to reach because you're trying to be too sterile and clean. And frankly, that community's messy, and you got to get in. And a few blocks away, I live near wealth. I also live near poverty. I can literally walk 7 blocks and see people in alleys with needles in their arms. I can walk this way and see people going to their mansions, and it's like night and day. But the stark contrast between that is really understanding at the end of the day, there are conversations that need to be interrupted, that continue to be going on. And the interruption is that sort of superpower you were talking to, speaking truth where truth has not been able to be told. And that may be spirituality or your religion or in business. How do you be inclusive of people who come from different backgrounds? How do you invite that culturalistic nuance to the conversation that may not be, in America, we say, in God's name, we whatever, right? In God we trust is on our money. Like, even though we say separation of church and state, that's very much problematic for people who are coming from different places and have different backgrounds or religion, and thinking that we're open and, bring us your immigrants and we'll take care of them. That's not now being the experience that people are having, obviously. How do we break that up? How do we rebuild trust? How do we get to the point where we trust enough that it's not about legal fees, it's not about lawyers and compliance, it's about how do we, as leaders, and I would even say followers in some ways, because followership is just as important as leadership sometimes. How do we make sure that the rooms that we're in and the structures that we're in and the conversations we're in are bringing everyone's voice and everyone's experience with respect and dignity? And that's, at the end of the day, if people are being respectful and providing dignity to the people in the room, it's not about you're wrong, I'm right, and end of story. It's about getting curious. One of the things, I have an article on my site. I do a weekly article called Wisdom Wednesday. This week was all about leadership and followerships, which is why it's really sensitive on my brain, recency bias. But knowing those things about yourself, and knowing, one of the things, an article I wrote recently was, you can be right or you can be curious. The minute I start to get right about something, I know that there's something that's in the way that I haven't asked or questioned or it's just a way of like, this is how it is, and it's always been that way, and it's always going to stay. Like there's a stuckness to being right, that when I feel that I'm digging my heels in or have a strong point of view that's almost like my foot's nailed to the floor, I have no freedom around it. Something I need to look at, something I need
Yeah.
I need to unpack over here and get curious about, why am I so stuck? Why am I so ardently on this pedestal about this topic? And what I would say is, that's where the beauty of that is noticing that you're stuck, and then you
Yeah.
can start to be curious. And I think that's where we as organizations and corporations are stuck. Our foot is nailed to the floor around religion. Our foot is nailed to the floor around cultural differences. Our foot is nailed to the floor around those things because we're afraid of lawsuits and
Yeah.
money, losing money.
I
And that's the thing that's nailing us to the floor.
I agree. And you know what's interesting to me about that is the reason so in my book and in this podcast, I am seeking to find ways for us to start being okay. I'm okay with any faith that demonstrates love to one another. Like, I actually believe the universal religion is love.
Mhm.
If we were to give the source of the universe a name, it would be love. And when we demonstrate that in work and we rally people to love, we're all really okay with that. I don't think there's anyone who would say, I'm not okay with that. What's interesting is we will honor profit over the love of one another. And so what you realize is, by us being quiet about spiritual things, by us being quiet about moral things, we are doing the most immoral things, right? So as long as we're not willing to talk, it's kind of like this effed up model.
Yeah.
I won't talk about, love, so that we won't have a problem being unloving in our execution of profit.
Yeah.
Right.
And we call it a balance sheet, but it's so unbalanced. It's all about profit. Like, if it's a balance sheet and we're reading the balance sheet, where are we measuring love? If we started to measure love,
right. And then there's so many things where you can say, okay, you know what? That'd be okay if a portion of these profits went to this specific, really important thing that we're doing that's related to our business. Or, you know what? Not only do we have a social media company, but we also have a social media addiction company that helps people recover, right? And have control over social media. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have this yin and yang in our business. We're all one. And then we leave the others to just, good luck. Good luck out there.
And there are products that I actually, I'm not plugging this product in per se, but I seek those things out. So there's a company out of Australia called Who Gives a Crap. I order all of my tissues, paper towels, and toilet paper through Who Gives a Crap. Like, literally, it's all bamboo related products. That's all very eco-friendly. And 50% of their profits go to build bathrooms in third world countries that are fighting disease. So literally, like, I'm seeking out organizations that are doing exactly what you're saying, are doing things. And again, not trying to tout them. That's a great example of a company that's doing something in a new way that shifts the dynamic, that is actually being better at breaking down the systemic barriers to wealth, to access, to love, to joy, to health, all of those things. And I'm actually on the hunt for more of those companies in my life, and inviting them in to be part of where I spend my money, where I leverage my resources and my wealth to impact those types of things that I really believe in.
Yeah. And that's exactly the kind of new thinking that we need in future leaders. Because not only is it going to be about funding this corporation, but it's about, how do I get all of these younger people who really care about the world to work for me? Like, they don't want to work on a plantation that's soulless. They don't. You're not going to attract their talent.
So in Indiana, they don't want to go. Trust me, that's a horrible job. Smoking corn at the end of summer, not fun.
So let's talk about shifting gears a little bit. I think it's important on this show to have people be vulnerable about their businesses. What you do is incredible. The people you help and serve, awesome. What's one of the challenges that you face as an entrepreneur doing HR work? what's something that you would share with the audience as an area that you, you could be better in or that you struggle with?
I can't even. I'm like,
Oh
I literally, it's all the operational stuff. So I've in my career, 25 plus years, I've worked in large Fortune 100 or top nonprofit who have resources, and even in the nonprofits, we have resources like an IT department that's really great, and finance and all of legal and all of those things. Who is IT? I'm IT. Who is legal? I'm legal. Who is finance? I'm finance. Like all of it. So I
no. Yes.
literally this week, 2 weeks ago, I was like, my website's got to get updated. It doesn't look like the way I want it to look. I'm gonna make some investment. I'm gonna spend some money here, get it to go. Got it back last week. Gave some edits. Did like all of this stuff like I would normally do. Is okay. This is the page. This is what it says. This is what I wanted to say. Like on a spreadsheet, like organized, super. Gave it back to them. All of the edits, and it came back to me this week. And some of the questions I'd asked. We're working through it. Let's just say it's not where it needs to be. But I had a meltdown. I think what was it, Tuesday night, where I got it back, and I literally it was like, what about the integrations? You said we're still going to happen from this site to this site. What about the payments? It's not working. Oh yeah, you're going to have to set all that up again. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna
have I have a I wish that people really understood that when you are in your true gay excellence, we can do detail minutia and we can do large scale stuff, right? So when we do the minutia, and I'm not saying all of us, but many of us, we do it to a T. Then when it's not represented back, that's so frustrating. And we're literally, why did I spend all that time? I think that is
like literally all three of them. Like that's just it boggles me. So that's where I have to like then go back to my own. Eat your own dog food, or
and be like, okay, it's humble.
Like, this is your upset. It's a thwarted intention, undelivered communication. Like, what? There's something at the source of this. I can get at. Okay,
I can breathe. I can deal with people that are different than me.
Yeah.
So, hey, as we wrap up, what is one thing that you'd say you've learned in your experience in life as the leader that you learned the hard way? You would gladly tell someone to accelerate them through learning that faster.
Your life is not a social media account. There are ups and downs. There are headwinds and tailwinds, and they are going to come whether you like it or not. And you've got to be able to have grit and determination and belief in yourself that you can make it through it, that you can do. You have all the resources you need to survive and thrive and to flourish. So whenever you have that bad day, Tuesday meltdown, and you're thinking, why am I doing this? You can come back to something that is intrinsically the thing that gets you to your sort of, what I'll say, your center of gravity and your center of purpose. And you return yourself there, and you start to. I have a gratitude journal, and I literally every Friday, I send in my business. Free tip. One of the things that I do on Fridays is I thank you notes to all the people I met with in the past week. I keep a running tally. I make it personal, and I send them an e-card, and I say thank you. And then at the end of the day, in the week, I take time to look at what am I grateful for this week. What am I proud of? Blah, blah, blah. And then I'll turn the page and I'll be like, and what do I think I can work on next week? Just to have a focus. I'm not just, it's all roses and buttercups and rainbows. It's like, okay, and then what do I want to do better next week going into what I've learned from this week? So just finding space for yourself to give yourself rituals that return you to, again, I'll say center of gravity, your core, your belief system, your, how you would say, your magic. How do you go back and honor that magic that is you?
It's beautifully said, and so true. And I feel like as we age, we see that more and more, right? There are, I wish it wasn't this way, but as we age, the balls of challenge that roll your way, and the impediments, they are almost more mature. You're like, oh, wow, this one's gnarly and hairy and challenging. Yeah,
Yeah.
so beautifully said.
The one thing
So,
about aging, I would tell young people too, the thing about aging that they never tell you is people start dying. Like your parents start dying, your aunts and uncles start dying, like your teachers who you had in high school start, like your friends start dying. Like as you get older, I'm not that old. You just start to see like there's no book that anybody hands you to say this is what grief feels like when you've had like 8 losses within the past 6 months, and you're like, boy, I don't know if I've got the stamina to manage through everything else I'm managing and try and grieve properly, appropriately, and still move on and have life work and have things happen.
yeah,
It's a challenge. It's an interesting part of stage of life that I'll say that you and I are in it right now, where we're seeing
it
that.
is. Yeah, and it makes you so much more aware that everyone else is going through something too. And suddenly you're like, you know what? Oh my gosh, I was such a rude little whippersnapper. I thought it was all about me and everyone had, and you realize, wow. So it's a
Yeah.
really humbling, beautifully humbling experience. So I want to be sure, again, check out consultingvisionary.org. If you'd like to check out what Christopher is creating in the world, get to know his services better. And Christopher, I just want to thank you so much for being on with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And good luck with
Absolutely.
the campaign.
Thank you. Thank you. It promises to be loving. Bye. And thanks, everyone. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye.